she didn't want Amos to leave one day. So she was just like, what if we have sex? And he's like, well, you're on your period. And she took the pad that she had on, took it off, threw it to where it stuck to the wall and said, I'm ready. We can go.
What was the need for the, just take it off and throw it away?
I guess she had to really demonstrate how down she was. Because I'm just like, did you go clean the fucking pad off the wall? Or how long did it stay stuck to the wall? So anyway, why I heard about this in my youth, I still don't know.
Oh, your parents were just sitting down telling you about this?
No, I'd be eavesdropping. But like...
Then why are you sitting here and questioning how you heard about it? Because you was being nosy. I don't know why I know this. It's got like a glass. Oh, I don't know where this come from.
I feel like more discretion should have been used. Like, you know I'm eavesdropping. Come on now.
First of all, it's like you are smart, devious, sneaky, and you're like, there should be more discretion. Like, the people had no chance, and you were going to find out.
All I'm saying is,
you went to school with a briefcase and a suit. You were gonna find out.
All I'm saying is the shit I don't want my kids to know, I make sure they're not here when I talk about it out loud, or I go outside away from the house so they don't know. Because I was listening. I was listening like a motherfucker. My mom would be on.
Kids do that.
My mom would be on the phone with her eyes closed, gossiping. But I'm like,
wait, your mama had the homey disease. Her eyes closed.
Guys. But you know what? You should, yeah, shit. I wish my sister were here. She could tell you, like, because me and her to this day, like, we got some good gossip. We're on the phone, like, girl, let me tell you, this motherfucker.
Welcome to Rappin Atlanta. I'm Nita Sharice.
And I'm Nikki.
And in this podcast, we have a frank, honest, and open conversation about the FX show Atlanta.
We have noticed that there are similar features in each show, and during our discussion, we offer our impressions on what those features are. There's a That's So Atlanta moment in each episode that most clearly and accurately depicts the spirit or quirk that is Atlanta and life in the American South.
Dariusisms highlight the special flavor the character Darius brings to the show because he is easily one of the most layered, complex, and compelling characters on television.
There always seems to be a mystical element or some strange thing that happens beyond all logical reason and sometimes scientific explanation. We've all experienced those kinds of moments.
And finally, the SGR moment is very plainly the moment in each show when shit got real and we are reminded that life is not a game and desperation has the power to motivate any and every possible action.
Today we're reviewing Season 3, Episode 5, Cancer Attack, directed by Hiro Murai and written by Donald Glover and Jamal Olori. When the crew realizes Al's phone has disappeared during a concert, they come across a very strange character with interesting insights.
Socks.
Yeah, Socks can go to hell. Wiley can go to hell. The security guy who was harassing Earn can go to hell. Like, I have so much more sympathy for Earn's character this season. And I'm starting to realize that he's been the same guy. We just weren't seeing evidence of the guy that he was during that first season. Because I think we were mostly seeing things from outside of what he was experiencing. And in fact, I think that we don't really get to see how his mind works until the last episode of the first season, where we see that he's living out of a storage unit. So he's putting everything on the line to make this work. It's a do or die situation. And I got to tell you, I can relate to that. I've been in that situation, so I have so much respect for him, so much more respect for his hustle, and also so much more empathy for what he's experiencing, because it was in this episode I realized that he suffers all those microaggressions that people who have reached a certain level in America's racial progression. The Black people who enter into the middle class and enter into the upper echelons of society, they are the ones now who are on the front lines of racial interactions. And so they're getting the shit. And that's who Earn is, whereas like Al and Darius can somehow stay kind of free of it. They're also suffering in their own way. They're victims of racism in their own way. But Earn is on the front lines because he's having to deal with white people day in and day out in conducting the business. So that first microaggression with the security check, the dude comes in with the coffee, the guy just nods at him. Earn comes in, he's got to read the credential and make a note on his clipboard. Bullshit. I was pissed.
And after it was obvious that Earn had already been through there a couple of times, like there's not a whole lot of Black people here. Like, Santa Claus time is over. It is me. Another thing, you were saying that we didn't really have sympathy for Earn, but also I think we always knew that he had it in him. Mm-hmm. Which is shown by in the first season, don't remember which episode, when he did what he did to get Paperboy's Underground single played on the radio. He's always shown that, like, when it comes down to it, he would just sometimes not seize the opportunity. Sometimes he made stupid mistakes. I think it's two things. I think it's now he has more resources at his disposal to show what it is that he can do, like on a more consistent basis, because in seasons 1 and 2, they're just trying to make it. Like, season 1 is like even figuring out like, oh, hey, this is something that I can do after a trauma that has still gone like they haven't explained what happened. But when we meet Earn, he looks shell-shocked. Yeah. He looks like he's been through something. And now you bringing up all the microaggressions. We know he was at Princeton, I believe. So I'm sure that was just one long microaggression, which is why I think that he can handle it in a way where he just usually, like when something happens, he usually does that step back, like almost Jim Halpert, like look at the camera, like really, it's like it's happened to him so often. Mm-hmm. But I think it's because he has more resources at his disposal. And he's also learning. Like, it's like when you're trying to get good at something, you're going to mess up. You're going to let somebody punk you. You're going to miss out on your chance and not like seize the opportunity. At the end of season 2, Earn showed what he was made of and what he was willing to do when he saw that he was about to be usurped. Now, maybe it was selfish because he's also just trying to eat, but also like that's his cousin. And he did the normal thing that anybody would do if they're being threatened. Like he stood up for himself and he offed the other person like he was supposed to. And so now just watching him command everything, it's like, yeah, he's always been this person, but he has not always walked in it, but also he hasn't always been able to. Like, what do we say, like in education constantly? Like, people are assuming that Black kids have no intelligence, that Black and brown kids are less than, but they have not been provided the resources and the environment in which to thrive. And we know that they would, because without, they are still thriving and still outpacing their counterparts on just how creative, like we can be with nothing. So I think, to our credit, he wasn't showing us nothing, but now it's like, do you know who I am? And he does it with just this, he's not like over the top. Like when he told the guy, hey, I'm gonna need you to get the ginger ale out. And the guy's like, why? And he's like, because we said ginger beer. He didn't, he could have been all paperboy about it, but he just kind of told him calmly, which is way more effective because that guy like looked like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my internship. He's like, I'm on it. Like he didn't have to go crazy, which is why it's ridiculous that the other man is treating him as if he's like a bull in the china shop. He's the most chill person there. Yeah. Also, you mentioned that Al and Darius can kind of still be themselves. They don't have the responsibility. And it irritates me a little bit. It's like, they can have their little like temper tantrums. Darius doesn't really have temper tantrums, but Darius is very singular minded. He's infuriating sometimes. He's like having a toddler on the road with you. It's like, man, serious things are going on. And he's like, if we just look at this map, I would have killed him. Like he actually kind of made me mad. Like he made me feel like in that bartering, the bartering episode when he told Earn like I could turn this into more money, but neglected to tell him in a few months. Yeah. And then when somebody's like, hey, dude, like what, he's like, oh, well, all right. He's never bothered. But Paperboy can be a diva. Like he can still act like he's in the A because he's the talent. And now Earn has all this responsibility on him. They made fun of him about sounding white or like, you know, talking about the Dow Jones and diversifying your portfolio. But they need Earn because they can't be in those spaces or navigate things that they needed to navigate to make sure the money is flowing unless they had Earn.
He's the bridge. He's the bridge. But
they got clown him for it while like walking over the bridge. But it's like, but if you ain't have Earn, people be like, I am not dealing with you. Like you are uncouth. Like you're too unpredictable. Like there's insurance policies out on stuff. Like you like Paperboy, and we talked about this already, but like he can get to the point where people will probably not want to work with him anymore because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
And so he needs Earn. And it brings me to just like a comment that he made where he looked like he was worried about Earn, but he also looked like he missed his friend. Then at the same time, I wanted to kick the TV when he was like, man, you always seem busy. Yeah, nigga, for you.
Yeah. Girl. Yes. Hey,
I know I jumped, but I was like,
no, but because I was thinking this all while you were saying it's like Paperboy has just been, you know, he's been living his dream. Actually, we later find out in the episode he wasn't necessarily his dream. It was just a thing to do, you know. But hey, how you been? Like, you haven't talked to your cousin in all this time. He's making moves to you. Oh, you seem always busy. Maybe it's because he is truly always busy, but making sure that you're getting what you need to get paid. Right. So you're not out there slanging anymore. You're actually a legitimate businessman, entertainer now because of all the hard work Earn is doing behind the scenes. You know,
all the not sexy stuff that allows you to be able to just get $20,000. That allows you to be able to stay in the best jail that I've ever seen with a concierge. like that is because of the politicking that Earn does. And make no mistake, I'm not upset with him for kind of like, you can tell he misses Earn. Yeah. But the way that he approached it was with an attitude. It wasn't with the like, hey man, you know, it must be hard, like working for me, kind of like taking care of me, but then like, you know, like, let's try to balance our familial relationship. Because what I'm worried about is Paperboy and his, he's kind of irrational and he's impulsive. I'm worried that something crazy is going to happen where he's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, you know, I need you to be my friend and family again. So I'm going to get somebody else. Like, I'm like, the way he looked when Earn, because Earn kind of was like, yeah, I'm busy, and really wasn't like plugged into him because he was at work. Like, people were having fun. But when he walked out, Al looked super lonely. And I could see Al, I hope I'm wrong, but making the decision, not out of spite, but just out of like, this is changing our relationship too much. Like, I want my friend cousin back. So I'm going to transfer this. Like, I found myself thinking, I'm glad that Earn picked up another client.
Yeah. But then it's also like referencing other episodes where we felt like Al was saving Earn's day. Now we see that Earn is saving Al's day like all the time in ways that Al doesn't even realize.
He does not know. And I don't think he appreciates it, maybe because he doesn't know. And he's kind of a jerk sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
And I feel like it's a microcosm because I know I have personally experienced this. I'm not going to say that, oh yeah, I've been Black people's saviors, like, you know, tramping through the wilderness of white people lands. But there are times where I do very much feel that way. Like, and I know you've experienced this where you've been the only Black person in a space. So you have to represent for the whole race. And you're experiencing the microaggressions, the slights, the, you know, the clandestine little surreptitious movements that can happen, or experiences that can happen to you when you're in all white space. And you either don't have the vocabulary or the will to explain that experience to Black folks, but both at home, but they're just like, you come back and you're like, oh yeah, I was over here. Nigga, you a sellout. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
You have no idea what I have to face going into that predominantly white place, feeling unsafe from head to toe, but still understanding that I'm representing all of y'all, you know, and trying to open the door for you. And you're going to call me a fucking sellout? You know, that's why
that is a privilege. That is a privilege of ignorance. So it really is.
In that way, I definitely feel for Ern. I feel for him. The white boy walking in, Wiley, we find out his name is later, Folk's nephew. He walks in, he ends up on stage after the security guard has given Ern all of that trouble for nothing. And this dude
that's because he didn't even look up when Wiley walked by. All he had to do was this, and he got by them. But after the security guard harassed Ern, but also after we see Ern, after the guy holds him up again, he joins the security team, and you can hear him saying, "There's too many people walking around here. I want you to make sure that people don't just have access to Paperboy. I also see this." It was like a list of things, and it's like they were like, "Okay, chief," and then like got back on their iPhones or something.
Yeah,
and he literally said what he said, and you look up, and this fool is just on stage, and looks genuinely shocked that he was yelled at, and then like runs off, So what it opens, like, Ern is basically, I was proud of him. Like he was a boss. He was just like calmly, taking care of things. He gets harassed. He walks up with the security team. And then I think that's when we switch to Al and Darius. But like Darius is like clearing off the table of like M&Ms and other things.
And talking about how the place is haunted and we need to like...
Yeah, he has like an original like map, and there's 4 or 5 rooms that are unaccounted.
How the fuck did he get that? How the fuck did he get a...
And that's what Al starts to say, and then he's like...
Never mind. I don't want to know.
I don't want to know, because plausible denial. Like, I don't know what kind of bureaucratic crimes this is to do with this kid.
It doesn't
even matter. It didn't look like the original. It looked like this tattered blue thing. Like, who just has that?
I don't know. Darius.
But knowing that fool, because you know where you're going to go on tour like months before you go. I bet he got his little copy and immediately started like reaching out to like the Budapest Bureau of Blueprints, because he knows so much about just like each place.
I would like to know what a cancer attack is.
I thinking it was made up because the little boy, because like they were the ones that had the phone, and I was like, no, well that turned out to be real. Like, did that really just mean like, depending on what type of cancer, like if he was just having like a pain crisis or like whatever accounts for a pain crisis with whatever cancer he has, not sure, or he could have been lying to be a Make-A-Wish kid. They didn't call it Make-A-Wish, they called it something else, but it's Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
Like I did have the thought, like, people do that, or like people joke about doing that. Like, I want to meet Beyonce, so like I'm gonna pretend like such and such. So if you want to get out or like cause attention to yourself, like if you are known to have a terminal illness and like you're at this concert, no one is going to think anything ill of you. So if you're like, oh, everybody's going to be like there at the ready. So if I wanted to just be like, I'm having a cancer attack, which sounds like something that a kid would make up. But the fact that none of the adults were like, what kind of cancer do you have that it attacks? Like, it's like, that's the point of cancer. It's always attacking you. It's attacking you right now.
Yeah. I tried. I was like, is there really a cancer attack? Like of all the years I've known, and Americans have cancer. Like a lot of us get diagnosed with millions, by the millions each year are diagnosed with cancer. So I'm just, in all my years of being related to people who have cancer, who have died from cancer, I've never heard of them. Oh, can't go because I'm having a cancer attack right now.
The attack happens when you find out track, and because it's bullshit. Like, I think it was just bullshit. I think it was like, it's just like maybe the people are scammers. Really, like I did have that thought, because you're having a cancer attack, but when you see Ern, you're like, if it just were Paperboy, I would do it. It's like, why are you being valiant for paper? Like, you're not his soldier. Like, that just seemed like a moment to have some attention on you. Like those people that like make their kids sick because they're like crazy. I think that this little boy might be just the ringleader. And I have to believe that has to be it, because they do everything intentionally. So they could have written the sick kid in to have a red herring, or to just kind of like comment on like, that shit does happen where people will lie about things. There was something in the in the news, I don't know how recently, but like, or someone was lying about having a disease. So I kind of wondered, like, I wonder if that's just like a passing comment on that, or it could have literally been so that we could think that the kid did have the phone. But I wondered about Socks from the beginning. Now, when they found the Wiley kid, then I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
He's got it. Yeah.
Not, but
going back to the cancer attack and the made up ailments, that kind of reminds me of my first husband. He's from Detroit. Oh, I should not bring up Michigan. He was from Detroit.
That's why you acted like that when I mentioned. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah. So, so
like, wow, what did Detroit do?
Sorry. So he was from Michigan, and he used to talk about how people would purposefully injure their kids to get a crazy check. Stop it. Oh yeah, we get crazy checks down here in New Orleans all the time.
I was in the education system. Now, what I didn't witness was injured, but I witnessed going there and act a plumb fool. Yes, that's real. But I never saw anybody like hurting their children, but they would be like, I take this test, be crazy. And they would collect the check or sell the pills on the street that they were getting.
No, they would purposefully, according to him, they would purposely harm their children with a head injury or bodily injury so that they could get a crazy check. Now, this was weird to me because my mother has worked my mother, before she retired, she worked for the Regional Center of East Bay, which specifically worked with people with developmental disabilities. So all of this was like, what are you talking about? Like somebody would make their child, their family member, purposefully have some sort of ailment to collect a check? Like what? But okay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really sad, but I'm like, yeah, get to the shocking part. People are crazy. People are insane. I've seen so much because you can spot the kids where it's like, all right, a little bit too much mustard. Like you're not, there's nothing wrong with you.
Wow. That just blew me away. I mean, that says so much about the state of society. Like we're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world and people are resorting to turning their kids to, I can't say the R word. My mother sure did. But anyway, to result in turning their kids to special needs children. I love you, Mom. My mom's the best. So this cancer attack happens. Ern investigates the kid, finds out he doesn't have the phone. And then we go back to the room and Socks is sitting there. And when I first watched the episode, I went along with the main characters. Like, yeah, of course, this weird wily person has the phone. He showed up on stage, but in the second and third viewings, I'm just like, this dude, he is just overreacting. And he's always there. He was there when Al set the phone on the table and left to go meet with he was the only one in the room, but they never suspected. And that begs the question for me, like, why are you letting this dude travel with you anyway?
At the end of the last episode, not the last episode.
Before that.
At the end of episode 3.
Yeah.
They all had the same look on their faces, like they didn't like what was happening. The fact that Socks was in it. And I don't understand why they did not kick him out. I don't get it. In my opinion, it does not gel with the way that they are. Like, this isn't your first time in Europe. You're not like trying to ingratiate yourself in order to get fans. Y'all have shown us over and over again that like you are there, you have made it. Mm-hmm. People do anything for you. They all obviously had this look, like especially Paperboy. Like when they realized that Socks was there, it was like the air was sucked out of the van. But no one said get out. And when I saw Socks was still there on this episode, I'm like, all right, there's a reason. There's a reason for this. And who are you? Like, and why are y'all just, this dude is a hanger on. There was nothing in episode 3 that indicated that like he comes with the tour. Like, like how when Ern walked into the party and he already knew the guy who he ends up ripping off later, who he was like, oh, like my wife's in a girl. You can tell like, okay, this is somebody that they have had, this is a contact. This is somebody that he now knows. Socks just came out of nowhere. And since he's latched on to Darius and like now he's in, and I just think it's uncharacteristically stupid and naive of them. You got somebody hanging in your inner circle.
Yeah. Like
he's too close to the throne. Like that doesn't make sense to me at all.
So I'm wondering what his relevance is and why they would hand him the phone, where he talks about being white Liam Neeson. Now, this took me on a research tangent because the whole idea of Liam Neeson, I was like, wait a minute, Liam Neeson is Irish. And
he said some crazy shit a few years ago.
Yes, I was reminded of that. But, I love TikTok now. Initially, I was not an early adopter. I was just like, really? This looks like, no, because it felt like digital blackface all day long.
Outside of that, girl, our life is digital blackface.
I hadn't tuned into Black TikTok. Well, now I feel welcome and appreciated and celebrated. But, like outside of Black TikTok, I was like, this feels like Black digital blackface. But so there's this TikTok, I will post it in the show notes. This TikTok about this guy who was explaining how Irish people were Black and they weren't not considered white until they came to America. And they made a very concerted effort to adopt whiteness. Just like what I mentioned before, how immigrants come over here from Europe and they're not white there, but they're white here and they fully embody whiteness to take advantage of all of the benefits that comes from being white in America.
Irish for sure, especially through the police and fire departments.
Exactly. The Irish did that. But this TikTok...
Irish were originally not considered white is because the Irish people were actually Black. And I had 2 people come under my comment and call me liars and say I was just making up shit. But what they don't know is that I got receipts. Let's talk about it.
This book right here, Whence the Black Irish of Jamaica.
Typical of the Black Irish in Jamaica.
Now let's read the bio. Describes the little known facts that the Black Irish and Scots who were deported and enslaved in Jamaica. The books is complete with images of these Black indigenous Europeans, that's going to ruffle some feathers, that have been forgotten by most historians. Thus, this book opens an entirely new area of study that should be conducted to flesh out the incomplete history of the transatlantic slave trade. The acceptance and documentation of enslavement of Black West Africans is well known. However, there needs to be more known about these Black Europeans who were deported and enslaved in Jamaica.
Okay, so shit.
Wow.
It goes on from there. It's a 4-part series. I'll include those in the show notes, where he talks about how Jamaicans have a similar accent to Irish if you really listen to them, because a lot of them were Irish initially. They were Black Irish. So when this dude says white Liam Neeson, I'm remembering that they met up with Socks in London. The British and the Irish just have beef for years, and they have all these ideas about the Irish or whatever, Ulster and the IRA and all of that. That stuff goes back centuries. But I don't know if some of them, like today, consider Irish to be white people. Some of them probably don't, which is why he said white Liam Neeson. I'm like, yo, I'm just wondering, okay, am I the dork that understands that connection, or was that intentional in this show? I feel like knowing what I know.
It was intentional. Dummies do not write the show. But it's smart because you can know that connection, or it just makes sense because by this point, it's like Socks is just so random and crazy. It's like the other side of like a Dariusism. Like, he says things, but like you can connect it to something, which you can connect to the white Liam Neeson thing too, but he's just so random. And I think you can be so consumed or so distracted by his overreaction because it gels nicely with his overreaction in episode 3 and how he like wrangled up the little mob of people to make a woman of color. I mean, she was annoying, but like,
yeah, she was still a woman of color.
Like,
yeah,
to have her sitting on the side of the road, crying. The way he was acting was like, of course he's doing this. He did it in a much quieter way in episode 3, but now he's just like the whole mob is in him. Like whether it's real or not, but like he's such an interesting character, but he's also extremely familiar. I put him in the same category as like, and I know that you've experienced this because you're a Black girl in America, being like the only Black girl, but like around white girls. Mm-hmm. And when you get that compliment, like there's a couple of them. There's you're pretty for a Black girl. And then there's also, oh my God, you're so pretty, where it's kind of threatening.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to cut those lips right off your face and put them on mine. Like it's like this weird thing that they do, and it goes in with the theme that we like. You said it, and it was probably in episode 2 where you were like to put on blackness. Where I was like, they're always treating us just like this little thing. Like we can kind of be quantified, and like this is what black is. So still just not completely human. And
it's just an idea. It's an idea. It's a costume. It's a plaything. It's something that can be manipulated and distorted and used and exploited, but it's not ever human.
It's not ever human. You love it and you hate it, and you hate that you love it, and you hate that you can't be it. You want to be it, but when it suits you and it's time to not be it, you can take it off because, black face paint comes off. You can code switch. You can, and the way he has inserted himself in, and they have stupidly let him in, but he's in as a typical sycophant hanger-on where it's obvious like you're a fan, but is he? And then we have Darius dancing like a Muppet.
He was having such a good time.
He's having a good time, but have you seen Sorry to Bother You?
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm
pretty sure he was doing that same dancing because there's a weird club scene in that movie. Because I was like, why do I feel like I've seen him do this? Which made me wonder, does this nigga dance like this? Or is this like a part of his reel? And it's like a thing that like everybody, like when an actor can like secretly play the banjo and you notice that every part they have, the character can play the banjo. Another thing that I noticed, did you notice when Paperboy went out there and was rapping, what the voice sounded like?
Yeah, it was Donald Glover's voice.
Okay,
Donald Glover's song.
That's Gambino.
Yeah,
like the first time I was thinking, oh, he must have some kind of like mic distort. The second time I was like, that's that nigga, and I thought it was funny that they had him mouthing it like, oh,
yeah.
It's like, that's your song. They're so stupid.
We cut to after the show, and they're all tearing up the green room looking for this phone. Earn believes it's the little cancer kid. He goes and investigates the cancer kid. We talked about that. But then he comes back into the room and he sits down and Socks is there. And it's Socks who suggests that Wiley is the culprit.
He does all the suggestion.
Yeah. So he's kind of orchestrating it, and again, like you said earlier, why is he there? Because they're none the wiser. They're just like, yeah. Why do they trust this dude? I don't understand it. Where's that trust coming from?
So against character. I'm a little annoyed. Like, come on, y'all I don't know. This isn't loyal to who they are.
No. So that feels a little off. So anyway, they get on the phone with Wiley. Wiley is, the first time I watched it, I was like, what the hell is he all suspicious for? But then I think about it, it's like, okay, some guy calls me out of the blue claiming to be associated with Paperboy. I don't know them. I've never heard from them. He has a right to be suspicious, He still comes down to the venue anyway. I wanted to note the microaggression that Earn suffers there is when he goes to Folk and he says, hey, we've had some property that's stolen. Folk is like, he's just very nonchalant about it.
Does not care.
And I feel like if it were a white performer or anybody else, then they'd be like, okay, we need to contact security. We need to do this. I think he would jump to action. I think he's just like, oh, it's Black people. They're always losing stuff or whatever. Whatever white folks think about Black folks when something happens to them.
Yeah, he's probably involved in something. It's probably beef.
Yeah, whatever little assumptions that were made, he made them. And so then this Wiley character, I appreciated how Earn was just like, because first of all, how does the uncle not have his nephew's phone number? How? But then Earn, quick thinking, he sees that the resume is on the guy's desk. So, he goes and makes the call. Wiley ends up down there and they question him. What stood out to me about this interaction, besides like good cop, bad cop, and devastated cop, is why the uncle assumes that this 32-year-old man is 19. And I think about all the times where white men are infantilized, especially when they've committed a crime, then suddenly they're kids.
But also, that dude does look 9 years old.
He does look young, but at the same time, like, so does Earn. But if it were Earn in a position, he's a man. You know, if it's a 13-year-old Black kid in that position, oh, he's a man. If it's a 6-year-old Black girl, it's a fully grown woman.
She's a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I had to take time out to be pissed off at that. You know, I had to walk away.
And now a word from an exclusive Rappin' Atlanta sponsor.
Amazing Grace. What's wrong, baby? Why can't you hit that note? Oh, Grandma, my throat hurts. I tried everything. Tea with honey, tea with lemon, tea, even cough drops. Well, that's the problem, baby. You've tried everything but the right thing. Well, what's the right thing? Child, I'm glad you asked. You need my Grandma Sadie's soothing throat lozenges. Her lozenges are a mainstay in the Black community. Why, it's made from a secret recipe, and it's been saving church solos and civil rights protests for generations. It'll coat your throat and soothe your soul. Oh, thank you, Father. Okay, I'll take 2. Sadie's Soothing Throat Lozenges is made with a secret family recipe that includes a little love, some perseverance, and a whole lot of hot sauce. In just 30 minutes, you'll be ready to either make a joyful noise unto the Lord or scream at Whitey till freedom come. Well, how do you feel, child? Amazing Grace. I feel, well, amazing. Thank you, Grandma. Oh, baby, don't thank me. You need to thank your great-grandma Sadie. Thank you, great-grandma Sadie. Sadie's Soothing Throat Lozenges. Don't you let your solo go to hell.
And upon first viewing, I hate Wiley all through this exchange. I'm like, why are you acting like you know what the fuck is going on? Come up off that phone, nigga. Like, I'm just like, give me the... I want to be like Al, like, yeah, I'm gonna beat this dude. Yes, beat this dude, beat the fucking phone out of him.
I said the same thing. Beat the shit out of him.
Yes, beat the shit out of him.
You will find it then.
Yes. When he lied and said he didn't have a phone, but then in the next scene, he pulls out his phone and texts his uncle to bring him the guitar.
That's why I was like, you do have his number. Otherwise, it would have been like, what's this unknown number? Ask me, like, what guitar?
They keep on trying to get the truth out of him. And then he literally like auditions in front of Paperboy, pretty much. Has a guitar. It was a nice song. It was very thoughtful. And I felt like Alfred was personally touched by it. But
I think it may have been because those were his lyrics to something.
You think so?
I think he was taunting him. And I'll tell you why. You remember season 2, episode 2, I think? I linked to it. The acoustic version of rap, how like that was a thing. I just got this feeling that he was singing more unreleased lyrics.
Paperboy, all about that Paperboy.
That is going in the show notes. I already have it queued up. There's 2 different articles. One about the actual, she was a real YouTube artist, but she didn't do that. But she wasn't she's a real person. But the way it touched him, but the way he was tearing up, he was in my opinion, I think he was containing himself because I think that's something that he wrote. Just like the other thing, the box top Chevy and the rose with the thorn, because Wiley starts saying, such and such happened, and my mom moved me and my sister here after this girl Rosie broke my heart. He was still taunting him. He was just like switching up, and then he starts singing. And this dude is crazy enough to do that. He's sitting there singing with feeling and passion. In my opinion, Paperboy's lyrics. He also did this whole thing where I feel like you and I are the same. He's like,
well, they have the same birthday, which I was just like, yes, Taurus power.
Yeah, I was like,
on my birthday. Yeah. April 28th.
But he kept saying, we are this, like, he did everything but say, I am you and you are me and we are me. And he says all that and then goes into like this chick named Rosie, which is almost the same name. He just like conjugated it a little bit. And the way Paperboy had the tears was he was resigned. It's like, this is my shit. I'm not getting it back. It was like the restrained version of the glare that he does so well. Like when he's like, oh, and like he's just like, bruh. But he was just sitting there. And to me, that's why he just gave up. You know, so it's like Socks had to have been like, Socks had the phone, but they know each other. Like he knows.
You think
that guy.
He knew Wiley?
Yeah, because Wiley knew shit too.
Yeah, I was like, how did he know his phone number?
Because they know each other. They know each other. And then I also wondered if. So like that's Wiley's nephew. He hasn't seen him in a while. Socks is sketchy as fuck. We don't know who Socks is. Socks could have been in the same juvenile thing. He's a scammer. He is a scammer. So Wiley just being there, like, think about how he was just kind of there. Like, Socks is smart enough to, like, like how we scammed our way into the pool. All right. So, like, Wiley, like, has the confidence, but also he has a person on the inside in Socks who knows how not to draw too much attention to himself, where people are like, oh, that's Socks' friend. But if he was in juvie and he's still up to shenanigans, they have figured out how to, like, I would not be surprised if he met that boy in juvie or something. Like, and maybe the Wiley dude, maybe the other guy, like, is his uncle. Like, that makes sense. It could have been like, hey, like, we're going to be at such and such. Oh, like, isn't that your uncle's place? I don't know. But Wiley knew shit too.
To what end, though? Like, how are they benefiting off of this?
They're putting blackness on because Socks almost said nigger, but had the sense enough to act as if he knew why he shouldn't. Like, he didn't do it like the other people where it's like, nigga. He did it in the way that every comedian has retold that joke. Like, because it was actually funny. Like, when he's like, oh, very good. It's like, oh, yeah, because Socks knows. Because Socks approached Darius. Socks understood why what the MK girl said was so problematic. He's an ally. So of course he's gonna, and then he makes sure to apologize to Al. Like, like, sometimes I just he is not stupid. He's been doing this 4 years. And if Wiley is 33 or something, he's old. Socks is old as fuck too. Which would explain his fucking hairline. Well,
yeah, he does have a tragic hairline.
He has the hairline of somebody who's like, I am the crypt keeper. Like, if you put him in like an old-timey suit with like the literal bow tie, like, hold it. He's like, he and Wiley know each other. They know each other. And it's kind of like if you work at a club somewhere and I'm coming and you like leave, like you put a little thing in the door so I can get in. Like they know each other because he has scammed his way in, and for some reason the crew is just fucking stupid. Like, and I don't know. It makes complete sense because we still don't know who Socks is. Socks was in that house with that man. Also, remember when it ended like that, and he beat Nando out of his money and he tore down the tree and stuff. You never know. He could be there to just like make mischief. Like Nando could be getting him back. I don't know, but I know I didn't trust when he was just like in the van and they didn't put him out. No. They just kind of like looked and they allowed him to, because he was already hanging out in the house. We don't know who these people are to each other. And now you are on the inside. When
he first said, I got you to Darius, I didn't trust him. Like, like anytime, anytime a business says like, we're the low price leader. Nah, your price is high as hell. Or like, we're fair and balanced. Nah, y'all slanted as hell.
On Insecure. We got y'all. No, you don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Like,
it's white people waiting.
I love, okay, that's mine from now on. I'm stealing that. Whiting is a verb. From now on, you heard it here first on Rappin' Atlanta. It's a verb. So, okay, they don't get their phone from Wiley, and they're resigned to the fact that they're never gonna get this phone back. But yeah, they drive away, and that's it. And then we see that Socks had the phone all the time. And again, I'm just like, why?
And he throws it away.
He couldn't just give it back or like plant it somewhere in the bus.
No, because he fucking hates him. It's the rage. He hates Paperboy and also wants to be Paperboy. He wants to wear his face as skin because they are fucking crazy. Because he will never have the swag. He doesn't create culture. He doesn't set the trends. He hates that these people are adoring Paperboy. even as he adores him. We have said this. We have actually called things before the episodes happen. Like, literally, when you said putting blackness on, like that's what he wants to be right there, but he also wants to destroy it. Because think about it. He's just doing this for some weird little self-thing, because he didn't even do the thing where he like leaked all the shit, because you don't want to mess up Paperboy's success. You're being a hangers-on now. And I also had this theory. So you remember the scene where he says, because this was before Paperboy's phone disappears, where he says, you want to hit up a strip club? And they clown the European strip club, which was really, really funny.
And I
think that pissed him off.
Very uncomfortable. Yes. And I was just like, okay, is that when he decided to steal the phone? Because that happened before the phone went missing.
Because he does that laugh, like how you said, the same laugh that Will Smith does. Because he's like, yeah. And he's just looking, I was like, that pissed him off, because that made you feel like you're in the middle of this, like you're in the in crowd, and now they're making fun of you.
Oh
and
my
the shit
God.
was funny. And they made fun of the bodies of these European women, because
they don't have
ours are better,
ass,
like the black and brown or whoever, you know. But also, they're strip club connoisseurs. They're from Atlanta. Like, but it's like, this is a way that you are better than me. I really think it was about egos. It was like, fuck you, I'm gonna get my person Wiley.
And I know you've been in a situation, because I have a story where you've said something and you're just like, yeah, you're just joking, or you're just having a conversation. And if there's a white person there, they heard you and they're offended by it and they want revenge. Girl, did he steal the phone because he was mad, because he was slighted that, you know, that Al and Darius didn't think his suggestion to visit a European strip club was good? Probably.
I think so. I think it gets to the heart of everything. It's like, yeah, I'm obsessed with you. Like, I'm enjoying like being on the inner circle, you know, of these rappers, but also I'm tribal. You were talking about our women, because they say, me Lord, like, watch me try to clap my ass, but I can't find it. And it was like, he said something like 100 pounds, but we have no titties.
She said, like, sprinkle me, make it
rain. Me Lord, sprinkle me. So, you know, that's like a slight. And it reminded him that he was white.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I saw his face, I was like, oh no, he's Will Smith laughing. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, I don't think Al would have lost his phone.
Yeah, done that. I don't think so. Otherwise, either.
It's really, really scary. Like, they're in danger. They're in danger, because Socks has already shown, like, he did the white thing of like telling a guy that he was going to kill him. Now, before we knew like what was up, it's like there he goes white and acting in a way that he has the privilege to act. But it's going to be associated with Al, which Wiley demonstrates when he said, well, if I turned up dead, people would say that you did it. And Al wasn't even the one that said it. It's him suffering for a white person, being comfortable enough to do all this shit, but you're not going to suffer the consequences. Yeah. I think that was clear, like what was happening there. And then, of course, he's playing stupid. I also wonder, too, like, if when he kept, like, wanting to go in, if it was so he could control, like, Socks, I mean. Yeah. So if he could kind of control and, like, monitor, narrative, like, what was happening. Mm-hmm. Because what if Wiley cracks and says, you know, hey, you know, like, what if he gives them up? Because I just now see them as two scammers. Like, I don't think that Wiley will show up again or maybe he will, but, you know, they made sure to say that he was in juvie. I just think that they've known each other since then. Hell, mm-hmm. They might be brothers. You know, we already know that Folk is a liar.
No, he said that he moved to Budapest from where? Where was he before?
I don't remember, but he said with his mom and his sister or something, but I don't know. Yeah. He has known Socks for a long time.
That's a great observation.
That's my theory. I'm like, they're working together. And he wanted to get in that room so he could kind of like monitor like what was happening, throw his shit in, because Wiley's sitting there saying like, oh yeah, but you know, you said that you would kill me, right? Like and he knows like what he's doing. He's also weaponizing the fact that if Al is tied to anything like that, his career is over. He's a big black man in Europe. Like he's doing the same thing that the lesbians did with the kombucha stand. But just like a reverse way. And what Marshall did last week with like, oh, I'm called police. Like they know, like all the reasonable white people know how to switch it. And now like you're the same as like the founder of the KKK. Like I hate them so much.
Oh
I
God.
hate them so much.
I just want to say, great observation. This is why I fucks with you.
Oh, I was so mad at him. Like when he threw it away, I was like, yeah, this was just about revenge because he's not even interested in actually taking Paperboy down. Because he could. Like you get a hold of a celebrity's thing and just like you leak their stuff. That's ridicule at best. But he didn't do that. He's not actually interested in truly destroying him because he's a leech. And so that would stop everything for him too.
But, just piggybacking off of everything that you're saying now, like he understands that Paperboy is relatively new off in the game. So it wouldn't take much to derail him. Because honestly, if we look at the grand scheme of things with Black people, does it really take much to derail us? We were up in arms off of the simplest things, the simplest slights, because it's happening on top of all of this trauma and these slights that have been compounded over time. Right. So one more thing, just like a feather on top of it, and we're ready to explode. And he didn't need to leak anything. He didn't need to, turn it into a sensationalized thing. All he had to do was take it. And he knew that's all he had to do. And it would send him in a tailspin. And I hate that.
Yeah, they have so much power. It also makes me wonder, like, was that the plan all along? Like, is Wiley going to go to the trash can and retrieve it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Let's talk about the elements.
All right. Your That's So Atlanta.
My That's So Atlanta was the ways in which Al and Darius were strip club connoisseurs, where it's like, if you're going to bring them to a strip club, it better be on because they are from Atlanta. That is the one thing that I will see to Atlanta. I ain't gonna tell you if I'm out to say nothing to you about strip clubs because Also, I haven't really frequented strip clubs, so I don't know nothing anyway. But they really, really know. And I think that is so, that's so Atlanta. You don't take no Atlanta nigga to no strip club that's not in Atlanta.
As someone who lived in Las Vegas and gone to the strip clubs in Las Vegas and then gone to the strip clubs in Atlanta should not be the number one for strip clubs because there's a church on every corner. So it just
makes sense.
Okay, it does make sense, but it's also super weird because you got Sin City that should reign supreme in all sorts of debauchery. But Atlanta, strip club on lock. Like the strip club culture in Atlanta is on lock. So
because it's repression. That's what I'm saying. It makes perfect sense. Sorry. Shut up. Go ahead.
I'll co-sign with you on that. My That's So Atlanta, though, was how Alfred, when he's talking about Rose and what happened with him and Rose, he mentioned that she fucked this dude named Pookie. Every Black person knows someone named Pookie. I have a god brother named Pookie. Who's your Pookie?
We don't have Pookie, but for some reason, and I don't know if this is just Louisiana or just New Orleans or just the West Bank, there's a Manny boy.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we have a Manny boy. But when you see his face looks like he should be named Pookie.
Dariusism, there were so many. I know we both agree. When he said, I smell adventure, like, nigga, shut up.
That was the cousin to Destiny. It's like, you're the only one that smells adventure. You were the only one that's cooking it, that's looking for it.
What does adventure smell like? Is it sweet? Is it savory?
It smells like the back of somebody's hand if they finally slap you. Like, can you just be with us one time? Niggas are at work. Oh my God. And it's so funny because I had just had the thought of like, I know that Darius must be a good friend because right now he's living his best life. Like, what is his purpose? And so this leads into one of my Dariusism. His purpose is to pray to the rap gods, apparently, before alcohol.
It was such an earnest prayer. It was so heartfelt.
It was heartfelt and it was self-deprecating. He was like, I know that, I don't usually do this. Like, it was almost like, I know I'm not worthy to ask you for anything. But it was so, and he was doing that behind the back massaging thing that I've seen like ministers do. There's like a laying on of hands with like a bucking up.
Were they swaying?
Al was receiving it.
Were they swaying?
It was church.
Yeah, it was church.
That's what I'm saying. The strip club and the church, like, it's okay. But my actual one was when he said devastated cop.
I didn't catch that until the second viewing, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
It's like good cop, devastated. Yeah, devastated because you are the reason that Sox is here. No, you know what? No, that was just about Wiley. Sorry, I'm projecting. But we can blame Darius because Darius should have shaken Sox off.
Yeah.
But he got there through the weirdo who's just like open to everything. I guess it's destiny to have this white dude. Like it's just, this is all Darius' fault. Just like it's Darius' fault that he does not allow Al to back anything up to the cloud.
I was just gonna say that. Like that's how.
And Al just goes along with it. He's like he's so exasperated. It's like you do realize that you can just not listen to him.
Yeah, how is this nigga your spiritual advisor? Like, it's just like, yeah, I read everything by Darius. What? Why?
Which brings me back to wondering about the relationship. I need a Darius episode.
Your mystical element.
My mystical element, I don't really feel it in my soul, but like just them talking about ghosts, just because that keeps coming up. Al references as long as it's not like what happened in Milwaukee. And then Darius says, yeah, I saw a ghost. And he's like, nigga, that was your own reflection. It just seems like it just keeps coming up. And I don't know if it's because Europe is hella old. And so like whenever you're somewhere like that's super historic, like there's like ghosts all up and through New Orleans, like, cause all the old shit is just, still here. And New Orleans is a pretty European inspired city. So like there was no like thing in this episode, but it seems like ghosts just keep coming up, like in the episodes with them at least. Okay.
So during this conversation, you've led me to believe that my mystical element is not mystical because like now, but how Wiley knew Alfred's phone number. The other thing that I would say was mystical is when they start talking about this is not a dream, this is real. And I'm like, that's funny. Y'all are funny because the last episode was definitely a dream. And the first episode was a dream. So you talking about, this is not a dream, this is real. Like, are you fucking with us?
Yes. This whole thing is just one whole, which that leads me to something that we're going to need to link to that I didn't know existed until I listened to one of my favorite podcasts, The Read. Apparently, Donald Glover, maybe you saw it, did an interview, but it's him interviewing himself. Yeah, and one of the hosts is really irritated by it because she's like, nigga, like, what are you doing? But the other host isn't, and I think it's because he understands it like I do. It's basically Donald Glover trolling everybody because the one host of the episode, Kid Fury, says, I just feel like he is trolling us because it sounds like this nigga is tired of his team saying, you need to do press, you need to talk to people. Can you please do some interviews? We know you like hate people, but can you just do some interviews? And he was like, watch this. And he basically asked himself questions. It's like he's making fun of interviews. Like he's trolling and he's like he asked himself questions about blackness, about his blackness, about like black women. Like one of the questions is like, are you scared of black women? And then he's like answering like, don't ask me that. And Crystal is like all annoyed, like this really irritated me. Like it made me angry because we know that we know it's just you. Why are you acting like somebody else is asking you? But it's because he is, in my opinion, he's making fun of just the whole dance. Like I get that thing where it's like, I know I'm creating this compelling shit and like people are amazed by it, but like now I have to talk to you about it. Like you're going to ask me kind of like leading questions. Like you're just asking me this because you want me to talk about it. Like I get it, but I hate it.
All right. Your SGR.
When Wiley is singing the lyrics, because in my opinion, that's Paperboy lyrics. And the reason why I believe that is because I believe it's a callback to that white girl, the acoustic versions of rap songs, because they really pay attention to that in the second season. And we will link to it in the show notes where the girl's like, Paperboy, because there's a whole genre of that. Which we saw that when WAP was hitting. Like there was so many different versions of WAP that acoustic thing, and they have an opinion on it. Like there's a whole article about like how I found this girl. It was very purposeful. Like we know everything that they do in this show is extremely intentional. And I fit because when Paperboy heard that, he was pissed. They had just bought weed from somebody, like this really, really good weed. They had like a good meeting, and then he's sitting in the car with Darius. And then the guy's like, yo, check out my girl. Because he thought he was like showing some kind of respect. And when Al sees it, he's like, the fuck is this? And of course, Darius is like, oh yeah, white girls love it. Like he knew all about it. And then Al was like, nope. And it made him so mad. So to come back around now, you're like, your position has improved greatly. Like you are somebody, and like you're on the beginning of like your rise, and to have this kind of like done to you again, but while you're on your second European tour, that shit got real because nigga was tearing up. Like he was affected by it.
he was affected. I felt like my SGR was the moment that happened right before then, because we get a little bit of more insight on Paperboy's frame of mind. He's vulnerable in that moment. He's admitting like that rap wasn't his end goal. It was just something that he was dabbling in. He admits to having writer's block, which is like, I hate when I have writer's block, because I'm just like, but this is what I do. How can I not be able to write? And I figure out ways to push through it, but it feels like I'm trying to write, but 3 of my fingers have been cut off. So it was a very vulnerable moment. I think it was honest. It's like, hey, do you want to know the truth? I need this phone because, if I don't recapture this part of myself, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. And then we also see how much his life has changed. I think he had plenty of source material to derive from, because he was living an authentic Atlantan life, out from his perspective, out on the streets, making money any kind of way, because he couldn't get hired in any other capacity because he's a big Black guy. And that's crazy. You're a big Black guy so you can't get a job. And
unless you want to like start Bouncers R Us. Yeah.
And who wants to do that? Especially if that's he could be a very good bouncer.
He would be a very effective bouncer.
He would, yeah.
And I've said before on the show that he is my favorite body type. Like
he's tough.
And I'm always like, you can see my husband be like, that bitch ain't lying. Also think they're commenting on what happens with artists, especially rappers, when, like you just said, he had a lot of source material, but when that isn't your life anymore, then how do you pivot without being called soft or a sellout or like you're losing touch? And the smart thing to do would just be to, like, that's when all the rap becomes about your rims and your tires and like tours. But because that wasn't his first, he wasn't trying to be a rapper, he's gonna respond differently than someone who has always wanted to rap. Like they know how to just write about their surroundings. He didn't have to do that anymore. So like, what do you actually want to do? Which is why his stupid ass needs to listen to Earn and start diversifying shit. Because maybe you're supposed to just own all the property in Atlanta. Like you need to be making plans to be able to pivot and for it to look natural.
And I would just say Killer Mike is a great example of that. T.I. to a lesser extent.
Is Paperboy Killer Mike?
Is Paperboy Killer Mike? I don't think Paperboy is as politically entrenched, because I've gone to political debates and Killer Mike has been the host there. That guy he is very active in the civic community in Atlanta. So I don't think Paperback has that. Paperback. I don't think Paperboy. I don't think Paperboy has that.
I'm the literary thug. Paperback. Better give me my book back. Better have it by the due date. That is when your local parish or like local government is trying to get kids interested in coming to the library again.
MC Paperback.
Who's cousin to Clippy, that annoying Microsoft. Do you need help saying that in a different way? No.
Never known anyone who appreciated Clippy.
I'm so
That's why
glad
he
that
needed
they
to die.
murdered Clippy. I like to imagine that somebody came like with like a sack and just like from behind and just
And that is our episode.
Thank you for watching. Rappin' Atlanta is recorded and produced by Nita Sharice and Nikki Ebro. Our theme music is Joy Clark's Galaxy Groove, performed by Joy Clark. Discover more about this talented artist at joyclarkmusic.com. Rappin' Atlanta's artwork is created by Prime Vice Studios. Learn more about this intellectual property development agency at primevice.com. You can find us on your favorite podcast player as well as YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and follow Rappin' Atlanta on Twitter and Instagram at Rappin' Atlanta.